something and he's trying to remember it.
Yeah.
He forgot to remember what he's trying to remember, but he can't think of it.
I can't remember. Yeah, I just
It's like right there. It's that short-term memory, right?
hate that though. That's just.
Yeah, it's called tip of the tongue syndrome or something, where
syndrome.
It's right there, but you can't find it.
Yeah, it's like you have it right. You're grazing it just a little bit, and it's just like, ooh, it goes away.
You know what would help?
Right on the tip.
Mm-hmm. What would help?
Perfect Keto's nootropic.
You're right. Perfect Keto's nootropic would help with that.
Yeah. Have you been messing with that at all?
Yeah, I used it twice since. I used it with kratom.
Mm-hmm.
I just dig it. I dig the way it feels.
It tastes good.
It does taste good. Like we mentioned before, it tastes like dark chocolate.
Yeah, it's super rare for a nootropic to taste like anything, period, other than like super bitter powder, but it actually tastes good, which is very odd.
I wonder why, because I've never taken any other nootropics, but I wonder why they don't just flavor it. Why do they leave it bitter?
Well, it's just mainly because
people are trying to get a high dosage, right?
Yeah, so like it's not really like BCAs, but like imagine unflavored BCAs. That's more what it's like. Like you can't really do anything with it. Well, other people can't do anything with it, but Perfect Keto somehow managed to figure it out.
Well, and then some people are experimenting on their own, trying to get loads of say acetyl L-carnitine or something. And it's got it's gonna burn the back of your throat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you blend it in with a bunch of other stuff the way they did with Perfect Keto, then you're able to kind of mask some of the flavor.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of great. We've talked a lot in this podcast about snacks and how we're pretty much against snacks. We don't really want you to snack, but we understand that you're going to. We do, and you're trying to figure out what's going to be the least amount of damage I can get away with. And we also talked yesterday on our podcast at length about trying to have your cheats be less bad. Can you go the rest of your life without a cheat? No. Can you work on making your cheats less intrusive and less horrible on yourself? You certainly could, and you can do that with some of the Perfect Keto products. They have different types of protein. They got a collagen protein, that salted caramel. I know you're a big fan.
Yes, I am.
And they have a whey protein powder. Those taste really good too. And on top of that, they got their bars. And now they have trail mix, and they got all kinds of stuff.
My gosh.
They got all kinds of things to give a shot to. How do people get a discount?
So if you guys want to get in on this, head over to perfectketo.com/powerproject. Enter promo code PowerProject at checkout. That's going to get you 15% off all Perfect Keto products. Highly recommend the nootropic and the collagen protein.
And we got other sponsor, Piedmontese.
Yes, we do.
Eating that beef.
Yeah.
No.
And
I had some really bad steak farts this morning, and I can feel more actually coming.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so I apologize because I farted up here before you got here.
That's why we walked out.
I had to walk out of the room because
you guys had to fumigate.
I can't take this. I ate so much meat yesterday, so I apologize for what's going to happen.
If you do have another fart, please just put your cheeks up to the microphone so we can communicate it out to everybody else that they know what happened.
I'll set up another mic and just put it down there.
Put it right by my butt.
Isn't it supposed to be it's supposed to be a thing about cows farting and destroying the ozone layer, right?
Yeah.
That's impressive to me. Is that true? Can they really do that?
I believe it is true. Yeah.
That means us eating the cows
methane
is saving the ozone.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I wonder if these jacked cows have just as bad gas though.
They might.
Cows smell bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they smell really bad all the time.
But they're so muscular. Maybe they have higher protein farts.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're grass fed, so they're 90% grass fed or something. I think at Piedmontese.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a hamburger last night and 2 of their hot dogs. And I was all pumped up about the hot dogs. So I was like, I'm going to go full keto. I'm going to eat real keto is 1 gram of protein per every gram of fat, approximately. So you have a lot more fat calories than you do protein calories. And so I was all pumped up. I'm going to eat the shit out of these hot dogs this whole week. I had a couple packets of the hot dogs. Can't do it, man. Their hot dogs are 21 grams of protein and only 10 grams of fat.
What?
And they're amazing. They're so good. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they ruined my hopes and dreams with their lean hot dog.
Huh. How'd it taste? How
it was amazing. It's really, really good. And it's just steak trimmings that's in there. And it has, from what I can remember, don't quote me on this, but I think it had like no nitrates. It had like 5 or 6 ingredients. It just had like garlic powder and onion powder and a couple other things. It was awesome. It was really, really
What the
good.
heck?
Highly recommend it.
So Mark gets the hot dogs, but we don't get the hot dogs. We need to make an order of some
Yeah,
hot dogs.
I'm gonna. Oh my gosh, that sounds so. I love hot dogs. I know they're not. Well, these ones are gonna be good for you, but the other ones are pretty terrible.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's just the more processed stuff is. We've talked about that many
Yeah.
times on the podcast, but still, I think, for some of us, we're just looking for stuff that doesn't have any carbs in it. And sometimes, like if you're on the go and we could hit up a fast food restaurant and get a burger here and there, like those aren't the best options. It's obviously a lot better to stick to your Piedmontese beef or stick to some high quality meats. But you kind of do what you have to do sometimes in a pinch. But man, these were really good. My kids had them too. My kids have been eating the burgers and the sliders. They just got. I mean, people got to go to this website and check it out.
Yeah, they're doing something right. So protein hot dogs. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get in on that. If you guys want to jump in on that too, head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project. That'll get you 25% off your entire order. And if your order goes above $99, you get free 2-day shipping. So you can order today and be meal prepping by Wednesday, right? By my calculations. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, 2 days. Damn.
Speaking of cheats, real quick, I feel really, really weird about this. I was telling Andrew about this.
Here we go.
No. Like it's just.
What'd you do now?
He had
those
broccoli
no.
for a cheat.
Well, actually, it's kind of on that note. Now, don't get it twisted. I still eat out from time to time. Like I had some wings the other day. Great, perfect, groovy. But you know what feels weird to me? You know those Costco boiled eggs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard-boiled egg. Yep.
Hard-boiled eggs, right? So for some reason, like when I do like feel I gotta eat something, I want something good, I'll grab like 8 of those eggs and some chili sauce. I'll pour the chili sauce over the eggs, and it's like I showed Andrew like the chili sauce, and for some reason, it feels so good. Like
That's great.
Like I don't know why too. It's like when you think about it, this is just fucking boiled eggs and chili sauce. But for me, it's like it hits that. It hits that spot for some reason. So
Well, it's
so weird.
It's a really good amount of food. It's a great amount of protein, and it's super going to be super satiating. So like, even for someone that may not love the flavor of that, it will still fill them up pretty good. And that's like you can use protein. They call it protein leveraging. You can leverage protein. Like the more protein you eat, it's been shown that a lot of times you'll eat less overall food. Sometimes people will have like a chicken breast or some hard-boiled eggs or something like that, and that will help you to eat less kind of throughout the rest of the day. So it's a good strategy, and I do the same thing. I grab hard-boiled eggs, I put them in like a bowl, and I have like everything seasoning, and I just dump that on there. It's like stuff you would put on like a bagel or whatever. It's legit as hell. It's so good.
Weird.
Yeah, mine
What
is
kind of what kind of chili sauce?
It's that Asian chili sauce. It has like the chicken on it.
It's the same chicken as the sriracha one, but it's not sriracha.
Oh.
We've been hanging out a lot. This is great.
People are like sriracha, but not sriracha, like writing it down.
It has little chili peppers in it, so y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like it has, you can see the little pepper things, but yeah,
That's good.
so odd.
Yeah.
You've been listening to some Jason Khalipa lately?
Yeah, dude. I checked. For me, like Audible and all that stuff, it doesn't really make sense. You have to pay for a subscription and then pay for a book. Like, to me, that's like Netflix charging me to rent movies. I don't really understand it. So the app I use is called Scribd. I highly recommend this app for anybody listening. It's almost like it's so good that I hate telling people because I don't want to share my hack. But it's like Netflix for audiobooks. I just happened to check like the not self-improvement, but like whatever like recommended for you, and it's like, oh damn, there's Jason Khalipa's AMRAP mentality, and so I started listening today, and it was really cool because like when I think of Jason Khalipa, I mean he's a savage, the AMRAP mentality. I just see somebody who's kind of figured it out and has probably had it figured out for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But he starts the book out by saying, like, no, he didn't, and he actually struggled in not struggled in high school. He just didn't care because like he didn't have any interest in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he tried to get into the same college as his then girlfriend, Ashley, now wife, where he was like, oh my gosh, I'm a loser. Like, I finally, like, I can't do something that I want to do. So that basically, long story short, lit a fire under his ass to take as many classes as possible, do as much work as possible, and like really take no breaks. And like that's where the AMREP mentality kind of started. And it just kind of got me thinking, like, man, in high school, like I kind of, we talk about on the podcast often, like Mark and I, we really didn't like school. I didn't really understand what like the point of it. I didn't get anything out of it. But it wasn't until like I found photography where I was like, oh, I got to figure something out, you know, like I don't want to be a loser anymore. But it got me thinking, like what was school like for Nsima? Like, cause I think we've barely touched on it a little bit, but I'm just thinking like with your mom and like, you know, you're disciplined young already, you know? So it's like, what was school like for Nsima?
Before we hear that, I got to take this mind bullet shot right here.
Oh my
to
gosh.
the face, and I'm going to do it solo.
I'm sorry, Mark.
Because Nsima's going to be saving himself for later, I guess.
Save
He's
myself.
saving himself for
Lord.
marriage.
Mind bullet extract straight to the dome. Here we go.
To the
I'm going to be high as
face.
fuck in about 14 minutes.
Yo, guys, like seriously, I've taken this twice on the podcast now. If you can't see the video, well, just we're holding the Mind Bullet potion, and it's so damn good. But I have to save it for jujitsu because I've never used the potion while rolling, and I feel like I'm just going to turn into some weird ninja.
Black belt.
Black belt, yes.
Yeah.
Black belt
Yes.
status.
Black belt status on some Mind Bullets. So I'm going to save that for later. Can't wait. If you do grab it, though, Mark, do you suggest that they take the whole bottle or half a bottle or a third of the bottle?
I think you'd take about half would be
Half?
a good idea. It's potent.
It's very
It's
close.
probably
Extremely
the-
potent.
Probably the equivalent of about 8 capsules.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know, man. For me, it seems like it's even more powerful than, because I've taken 8 capsules, and you know, it's like, okay, this feels great. If I take a whole bottle, man, it's you really feel it.
Maybe it just like hits you all at once, whereas maybe the
Maybe.
capsule's like a longer.
Yeah, so there's also in the powder form, it has like fibers in it, and those have to be broken down. So it takes a lot longer. This is going to hit you. This will hit you quicker, and I think because of the dosage, it will stay in your system for a while too.
Whew, I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, so while Mark gets high, we'll talk about school.
I'm out, bro.
Yeah, so yo, when I was like younger, I think like school shifted for me from elementary school, middle school, and high school. Like when I was younger, my mom, I mentioned this a little bit in the past, she like found a way to get me into community college classes. So she started me out in music when I was like 6 or 7. I was like playing piano and that type of stuff in community college when they allowed kids to take classes there. And she actually, like when I was like 8 or 9, I started taking like algebra classes there. And then after a certain point, they stopped allowing kids to come. But since I was already there taking classes, I got grandfathered in. So I was able to take all these math classes with like adults and stuff. And then she also put me in like this learning center, which was just satanic, called Kumon Learning Center. And it actually, you know what? It's actually a great thing because it teaches like math and reading, and it's something to help kids get ahead for like, you know, middle school and high school or whatever. So I took that with my friend Brian, and it was like just us two and like a bunch of other Asian kids. And it was great. You know, I hated it. I would a lot of the time throw away my Kumon packets.
How old were you?
I was like, at Kumon, I think I started Kumon at 10 or 11. Yeah, so that kind of put me ahead because when I started high school, I was taking calculus freshman year, and I finished that. So I was already ahead in like math. But this is the thing. My mom was the one that was like pushing me to do all this learning and stuff. I wasn't like, she knew that I wasn't enjoying it or whatever, because I would always like, you know, I'd throw things out, like my Kumon stuff. I get spanked multiple times for throwing out my Kumon packets. So when I started high school, I was ahead in math, which was cool. But from there, it's just like, I would just want to do enough to get by. And that's how it was for me for the rest of high school. Like, cool, math is out of the way, but now let me just get B's and C's and just do enough to get myself through all these classes. Certain classes, like I'd do better in because like she'd get mad at me. She's like, "Oh, you bring home a B? Who are you?" Like that's not that's not normal. She knew I could do better. So like there were certain phases where I was like, you know what, I gotta do better. But there are certain phases where I was like, you know what? I'm really, really good at Counter-Strike, so I'm gonna play more Counter-Strike. Like I was really addicted to games in high school. I told you all this.
Well, Counter-Strike was a really good game, though.
Counter-Strike, yeah, it was the Counter-Strike? There was 1.6 Source, Counter-Strike Source. I played a lot of Counter-Strike Source.
God.
I played
Did
a lot
your
of
mom
Maple Story.
punish you with taking away the video game console at all?
The thing is, she didn't even know I was playing video games on the computer.
Mm.
Like the computer's where I got my work done on. She
I
didn't
gotta
know.
go do my homework.
I gotta go do my homework, mom. You know, and then there's Alt Tab. You know, y'all
Oh,
know
of course.
Alt Tab is to bring the screen down. So like the computer would be in the loft area, but once I'd hear those footsteps, Alt Tab.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm doing my homework. You know, so I'd be fooling her all the time, which I do feel bad about. But you know, I was really like trying to I loved working out, and I knew I wanted to become a doctor. So my thing was, okay, let me do well in the science classes, which I did really well in my science classes, or all right, like B's, but I didn't really, there was no vigor in a lot of the stuff I was learning, you know? So yeah, I did enough to get by. Then when I got into college, like I knew, okay, I got to be a doctor. So that's when I deleted my Maple Story account and cried about that and stopped gaming as much. And I just worked really hard in college, but then I left because I realized I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. And I just focused on what I wanted to do. So for me, school was like, it was just something I did to get by because I know that this was a path for me to become a professional in what I wanted to do at the time, which was medicine. But I think the whole time, like I didn't really love it, so I didn't really apply myself that much. Whereas like when I realized that I really loved learning about like fitness and nutrition and stuff like that, I'm reading and learning about that stuff literally every single day. And that was like when I really realized what it was that I liked to do. So that's why when I look back at school, first off, kudos to all the kids that were just like, I guess they had more motivation than me back in high school, because even though they didn't want to do it, they just did it, right? But like, I just wish I knew what I wanted to do earlier. Like I really knew what I wanted to do. I feel like a lot of people kind of know what they want to do, but I wish I really knew, and I feel like that's just tough. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the way I feel, like I've said that multiple times, like, oh, I wish I knew back in high school I wanted to do photography, but it wasn't so much that like, I don't know, I guess the options weren't there, but I really did not even think that was like a career path.
Yeah.
So for yourself, like, oh, I want to get into fitness. It's like, who the hell is going to be around you to say, oh, Nsima, you can actually follow your passion, and it's going to pay off. Like, that's crazy.
And that's the thing, like the drive for in terms of fitness, I really liked it. I was really into that stuff. Like I told you in high school, I went no carb to try and get shredded. I was eating like 1,000 calories a day or something.
That's nuts.
And I got leaner, but I was also very dizzy.
I weren't feeling very good.
I was not feeling good. So I was already into that, but I never thought of that being a viable career path because that wasn't going to bring in money. I knew that medicine would bring in money, and I'm all right at science, so let me just do that. It makes sense.
So it was more of a positive thing, right? It wasn't like how I was giving the example of Khalipa. He woke up and was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting next to a 7th-year freshman in junior college. I don't want to be like that. It was more like, I really want to follow my passion instead of, following medicine.
When I left, yes.
Oh, okay.
Like when I realized what I wanted to do, that's when I left. Or actually, it wasn't that I realized that I wanted to go into fitness, but I realized that I didn't want to go into medicine. So I was like, I don't know what I want to do, so I need to stop spending money.
And that's a easier route for people, is to find out, like, think about the things that you don't want to do, the shit that you don't like. Because if I sit here and I'm like, and let's say you're 16, and I'm like, what do you love to do? Or even say you're 36, right? Like, sit down and ask yourself this question: what do you love to do? It's like, man, I don't know. Like, I like making money. I like working hard. Like, I like a good challenge. Like, I like watching some TV with my girlfriend or wife, or like, it's like you're kind of like at a loss for like, what do you might not really be super passionate. Like, I love catching a football game here and there, but like, you might not have like a thing that you're really crazy about. Maybe you have a couple of hobbies, but maybe you're still not like super fired up or inspired by any particular thing. And then it's like, okay, well, let's try to come from the other side of it. What do you know that you don't like? And you could say, I know for a fact that I don't like a 9-to-5. It's like, okay, we can that's a lot of jobs we can rule out if you don't like a 9-to-5. you know what, man, to be honest with you, I don't think I really work that well when I have like a boss. And it's like, okay, well, now we need to figure out how are you going to have a job that's going to, maybe you are a personal trainer, maybe you're an online coach, maybe you are, there's so many different things you can go into, but now it starts to open your mind up towards narrowing things down and trying to find out what you want to do. The weird thing about being a kid is like, I think that if someone came to you and said, hey, you can, like, if someone came to you and said you can make money, taking pictures, you might have thought it was kind of cool. But then the immediate sales pitch after that was, well, you better get good grades because you need to go to a good school to learn how to. And it's like, meh, shut off, boom, like back to video games. Fuck that. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I do think that it's important that people go through like a struggle, and it doesn't have to be like hard times. It doesn't have to be like someone doesn't need to die to, for this to happen. You don't have to have a divorce, or you don't have to have like crazy things happen in your life to have like a struggle, but just some resistance. Like you were messing around in the medical field. You were trying some stuff and you're like, you got some pushback in some different ways and realized like, I don't think this fits my lifestyle. And then how unhealthy. I mean, you want to talk about some of the most unhealthy people in the world. You look at like teachers and you look at nurses and doctors. I mean, they're hustling around. And it's kind of understandable. But when you start to recognize the things that you don't want to do, I think that can really help a lot. And you know who can identify shit that they don't want to do better than any other people in the world? Little kids.
Mm-hmm.
They are masters of it. Hey, dude, what do you want to be when you grow up? They might have a couple ideas because they're 6.
Yeah.
I want to be a cop. I want to be a fireman, or I want to be in the military or whatever. I want to be rich. Like they might just say something crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really know. They definitely know what they don't like, though. They know that for sure. Do you like broccoli? Nope. Like, not only will they say no, they will like shake their head and go crazy.
Yeah.
And they might scream no.
Yep.
You like ice cream? They might, I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. They might be like pumped, right? And so I think as a kid, it's it's really interesting stuff where you're just so into like, I just want to be like a part of like hanging out with my friends, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get older, you get attached to things more so than you get attached to people, because I think you find enough stability in some of the people that are around you. But as a kid, it's like that's the most important thing, is like, I don't know like what's up with this dude, but he's like the same height as me and we're the same age and we look similar. Like I want to hang out with this guy. Like we need to go fucking climb a tree or something, You're like, we gotta be homies. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but we need to figure it out.
Though, like it's funny because when I started working out at 13, there was I don't even remember his name, but he would have thought I was so weird. I worked out at this club center in Natomas, and the first time I trained there was this really tall, jacked black dude, and I was just like, I want to look like that guy. So you know how I was like super shy. I never talked to the dude, but I kind of figured out what time he would work out. 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and
This might have
Friday
been my
night.
friend Terreno, who was here yesterday.
Maybe, but it was every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday night, and he was never there on Wednesdays or the weekends. So I would always come in around those times, and like I'd be on the machines watching him, trying to see what he was doing and how he was working out.
Yeah,
like
crush on him.
After he'd do something, I didn't want him to like know I was copying him, but I'd just be like, I'd do the same thing and I'd just watch him, and for weeks. And I never introduced myself.
Just do the exact same workout.
That's so good.
I never introduced myself, and this was like 5 months, and then he moved away and never came back.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know where he moved, but like that's where I got my workout knowledge, because it was literally almost every single week I'd be in the gym at the same time as this dude. And I'd just like copy him, right? So like from there, like I had an example of somebody that I wanted to look like, because he kind of looks like me now. Like he was big and he was bulbous. I was like, I want to look like that guy.
So you bring up actually a really good point. Like copying is always like is normally like frowned upon, but it's actually a really great place to start. And when we had Elliot Holtz on the show, I was kind of shocked that he said that was a thing for him to like just imitate and copy other people, because he seems so original, right? He said, but like you have to start somewhere. He's like, so I copied this guy and I copied that guy, and you find things in people that you admire, you find things that you like, and you're like, that seems pretty cool. As a kid, though, it's really hard to understand what's not cool sometimes. Like the things that you like, but you think it's cool to like not do your work. You think it's cool to like not walk around with your books. You think it's cool, like the cool kids. They don't have great grades. They don't like, you don't want to overly excel in anything except for maybe like a sport, you know, because then you get admiration from the girls that go to the school and the other guys that go to the school and stuff. But like, kicking ass in your calculus class, like that doesn't really sound all that great. And I think it's important that kids do exactly what you just mentioned right there. Find someone that has something going on. And it's not even kids. I should just say it's for all people. Find some people around you that have something going on where you're like, I like those characteristics a lot, man. I'm gonna try better at a couple of these things, and just see what you can do.
What do you think about the idea of just doing, like you mentioned, that figuring out what you don't like, right? Casey Neistat, that
Yeah,
one,
yeah, absolutely.
he talked about,
he skated by on his skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
He skated by me and my kids, and my son freaked out, and I didn't know what was going on. And he goes, "That was Casey Neistat or whatever." And I was like, "Wait," I was like, "Who?" I was like, "Wait, that's the YouTube guy, right?" And I said, "Where did he go?" He's like, "I don't know." I lost track of I was gonna like run him down, but he was flying.
Yeah, when Mark just said about copying people, I tried to imitate him when I was doing Hustlemania for Mark. So that's why a lot of the the angles I would get, like Mark would see me, I would set up the camera like in a weird spot, and then we would just become part of the scene, and then eventually I'd run and go get it.
Yeah.
But it's because I was obsessed with Casey Neistat vlogs back in the day.
And it's not just you. He changed the landscape of YouTube.
Yeah.
He was the guy that started drone footage, and then every YouTuber started getting drones for drone footage.
Yeah.
Like it worked too. So like he changed that landscape. So people started doing what he was doing. But like what I was saying was, like, when he figured out what he wanted to do, he started off like as a dishwasher. So he knew he just had to get a job. He did that. He hated it. He had a lot of shit jobs until like he really knew, okay, this is what I want to do because I really, really hate doing this. So somehow I think it's great to like get some experience doing something, whatever it is, whether you're volunteering somewhere, because that's how I figured out that I didn't want to go into the medical field, by volunteering in a hospital. And like, I worked at a gym. There were certain things that I knew I didn't like. Like I didn't like being, I guess, an employee that had to answer to a boss and had a set schedule. I didn't like a set schedule. I wanted some type of flexibility. So then I moved into training people on my own in a private gym. So that's how I kind of came across what I like, by doing things and getting experience and figuring out what I do enjoy and what I don't enjoy. I think it'd be somehow, if you could figure that out younger, that'd be even more powerful. But wherever you are right now, whether in your 20s or 30s, you could still figure that out right now.
Yeah, I think going through a bunch of shit that you really dislike is super important. Like, I just got done saying like, oh, I wish I knew in high school that I could be a photographer one day, but I needed to go through a lot of bad shit in order to realize like, oh wait, this is what I love to do. And then once I actually have the opportunity to do it every day, I'm not going to throw it away. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think we can all agree like nothing would be a waste of time, really, if in pursuing like a job, you get like let's say you get a job at like a movie theater or something like that. Maybe you just simply learn like maybe you learn from the manager of like how to treat people. Maybe the manager is great. Like maybe they're like, wow, like that person every day, they thank me for my work. They make me feel special every time, and they do the same for everybody else. Or maybe they're a shit manager, and you're like, you know what? I'm never gonna treat anybody that way. Like that, like regardless whether it's work or whatever. Like I don't vibe with that. I don't like that. You're gonna learn stuff, and then you're gonna learn stuff that you like to do. Like, oh, I like greeting people at the front door, and I like saying hello to them, and I like ripping their ticket for them and telling them where to go sit or whatever. But I don't dig, mopping the floor. Like that's not, I don't like cleaning the toilets or whatever, right? You're going to learn a lot about yourself, and there's going to be those things that you have to do that you really don't want to do, but you're going to be doing them when you don't want to do them, and that builds a lot of character, it builds a lot of strength. And then, here's where I think people are sometimes messing up, because they're you're still able to do a lot of great things in this world right now. You're able to like monetize stuff, and you're able to get quick feedback and likes and comments that make you feel really good and that give you momentum. But you really do need to be able to figure out a way to carry your own responsibilities on your back and proceed forward at all times. So you have to be making a living while also pursuing a dream. You don't want to be pursuing a dream and not doing much, like if you're just pursuing the dream and that's all that you're working on all the time, that's kind of cool in some ways, but man, you're going to be pretty dysfunctional, and you might find yourself being pretty sad and pretty upset with yourself, and maybe depressed even, because you might not feel like you have much value because you can't take care of yourself, so kind of like the starving artist mentality. And I am a big believer in like, fuck it, man, do whatever you need to do to get to wherever you need to get to. And if you need to sleep in your car for a little while, that's fine. But you really shouldn't be sleeping in you should figure out a way to have enough finances to get you heading in the right direction. There's no reason why you can't do that and chase down your dreams like kind of on the side. And then the roles will reverse. You'll be actually living your dream, and you can be like, I don't really need this job anymore, and you can start to move on to something else.
Yeah, it's the Aubrey Marcus's method of like, I mean, a lot of people say smile through the suck, but that's what he implemented when he had a marketing job that he hated, but he went through it and dealt with it because he wanted to start on it. He knew he was going to have to do something in order to put himself in a position to do what he really, really wants to do. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sleep in my car. It was like, no, I'm going to work my ass off at this job that I don't love, but it's going to afford me the opportunity to start my own company. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from that book that I can remember.
One thing I think is pretty important too in situations like that, when you do have a job, and there's, by the way, people, like, if you do have a job or a 9 to 5, there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. I'm not saying like it's just like it wasn't for me, it wasn't for us, right? But if you do have that, and let's say that you don't necessarily like it and you're working on something else, I know quite a few people who they kind of really got comfortable with what they had. Like they're like, yo, I'm making all right money. This thing, I like it, but it doesn't seem feasible, and they just kind of give up on that. And yeah, maybe sometimes you do find it's too hard and you give up on it. But sometimes when you get too comfortable, it gets easy to just give up on what you wanted to do, because right now you're just all right. You know what I mean? How do you feel about that? Because I mean, sometimes like there are situations where that is what it is, but how do you think somebody can like fight that? Because I know a lot of people that are just kind of stuck where they are and they're not pursuing what they really want to do because it's too unrealistic at this point.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the key word right there, realistic. Like what is something that's realistic for you? And maybe you've been chasing something down for a long time, and it hasn't happened yet. And those are tough situations, because it's like, are you just gonna kind of chase after something forever, and not really be like a functioning part of society the way that you really need to be? I think that giving up on your dream, though, might cost you more so than anything else. Like, it might be more painful to do that than to do anything else. Like, if you had this goal that you were really, you really always wanted to try to accomplish, as long as it's not like, out of this world, like I want to make $100 million a year or something like that. I mean, you can be as like wishful as you want, and it's possible that certain thing, it might not become 0.025% of the population or whatever the hell it is, right? So you have to be a little bit reasonable about it. But I think that you should always hold on to your dreams. And maybe maybe you shoot for the moon and you still end up in the sky. You still end up a little bit above the clouds, and it's like, I went after a 600-pound bench, right? And I failed. I tried it several times. I actually tried a 600-pound bench once in a meet, twice in the gym, and all 3 times that I tried it, I got hurt. And at some point you're like, okay, like I really want that, and then you start to kind of think about, okay, why do I want? It's something I had to give up on. I had to pass on it, and be like, it just doesn't make sense for me anymore to keep to like you guys wouldn't even want to see it. You know what I mean? You'd be like, dude, like you're gonna get like really hurt, like you're compromising your health. So you have to put things into some sort of perspective. You know what? Sometimes I mean, when it's something physical like that too, like I'm not stopping jujitsu until I get a world championship, and maybe you do hold on to that forever because there's different age categories and stuff you can get into.
Yeah.
And you could be like 70 years old and like, dude, Nsima, like. It ain't gonna happen, bro. What are you doing? You're gonna get jacked up. But you do. It's important that you hold on to your dreams, and maybe your dreams shift because your goals shift a lot. That happens often. Your goals are gonna change a lot as you get older. And there's a lot of things that I have done that I've been pumped about, and I also got greedy. Like I wanted to do 1,000-pound squat, and then that wasn't good enough. I wanted to do 1,100. And I wanted to do a 700-pound bench, and I ended up doing an 854-pound bench. And when I did that, I was like, I got to do 900.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to deadlift over 700. I deadlifted 766, and I was like, I need 800. And I just never went. I never ended up with that 800. So you end up with some of it. I ended up with a pretty damn good powerlifting career.
Yeah. You know, first off about the goal shifting, that happens a lot. Like I remember when I first got into natural bodybuilding at like 22 or something, right?
Oh yeah, natural bodybuilding.
All right. Anyway, when I first got into natural bodybuilding, I did those shows.
The only natural about that's the trend.
Okay. And then,
I'm full of jokes today.
you know, straight up though, I really am digging the nickname Nsima. I'm using it for like all my usernames on things because it just really flows. Like
is.
I'm not on trend, people, but Nsima sounds kind of dope.
Nsima Inyang.
Nsima Inyang.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
one.
We know that you're not on trend, right, Andrew?
Wink.
Someone needs to make an IG Nsima Inyang. I'll just, I'm just gonna make that. I'll be,
You'll be the next Tony Huge.
be the next Tony Huge. Anyway, no, I'm not on drugs, yo. But let me get back to this shit.
I promise I'm not on drugs.
I promise. Anyway,
6'1", 250, 7% body fat. Just
Year
it's
round
just-
too.
yeah.
Year round. That's the thing.
But imagine if he actually tried what he could look like. Why do we even have him on the show?
He's using the chemistry to help him not
Is this
work
your
as hard.
idea, Andrew?
Actually, no, this was not my idea.
do you not remember this was Smokey's idea?
Yeah, when the idea actually came to me, I said no.
Yeah.
Was this my idea?
I think so.
I really hope not.
Yeah.
You took too much mind bullet one day and you're like,
Yep.
you know what, man? I love Nsima. I'm gonna have him on the podcast.
I felt all the warm hugs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back to your bullshit story.
All right, hey, yo, when I started in the natural bodybuilding, right?
Can't even
I-
say it. I'm sorry.
Okay, in 2015, I won Worlds. You know Doug Miller, right?
He's fucking jacked.
He's fucking jacked. And like on Instagram, because I was so pumped, I'm like, yo, give me 6 years, I'm gonna beat Doug Miller on stage, right? And I started doing powerlifting, and like I really dug that. I really liked building strength, and then strength was my goal along with getting bigger. But then I started jujitsu, and then jujitsu caught me, and like now that became my main athletic goal. Like goals shift. They shift a lot, and I think it's okay to let that happen, because if you find new experiences, you find new things that you really enjoy and that really fit your personality. But another thing, and it's a tool for like whether you're like 15, 16 listening to this, or you're like 20, 30, 40, have you ever heard about the self-authoring suite by Jordan Peterson?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude, that thing, if you find it hard to really think about this, that whole thing, it's like you could buy it's like $15 for the whole suite. It has you go over, like you literally go over your past, you go over your present, you go over your future, and it asks you all of these just a bunch of questions.
Jason Khalipa's calling.
Oh, snap. It asks you like
It's quantum.
a bunch
Yeah.
of questions that like have you go into detail about like what you want to do, why you want to do it, who you want to do it with, what you envision your social life looking like, why that is. It has you go over your personality, it has you go over all of these things very, very, very deeply. I think I did that like a year and a half ago, because like I wanted to try it out, and when I was doing it with my buddy, Like, we were just trying to see, is this something that's going to help us out
This
much?
is something you did like online or something like that?
Yeah.
And then you fill out some information and what's it like going through that process? Is it does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel bad? Is it like emotional at all? Like 'cause
Yes.
I
Like,
would imagine like it would be because I mean, look, man, like you start people are terrified to go to like a therapist, right?
mhm.
Like they got some problems, right? And going to a therapist reminds me of going to like a therapist for an injury.
Yeah.
Like, ah, my elbow kind of hurts. But then what do they do to you? Like
Mhm.
they fucking dig in deep, right? And it hurts really, really bad. But then what happens? The pain can subside and you can kind of start to do something about it. You can be active about it. And I think what you're talking about can be like kind of, you're like, man, like, because you have these hopes and dreams and nobody's ever where they want to be, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be filling out the fucking survey, right?
Yeah, man. Like, dude, like seriously, first off, it helped me clarify a lot of the things I wanted to do. Like, one of the things I wrote down in there was I want to do more stuff with voice. Like, I want to do more stuff in terms of podcasting. And it's not like I willed that shit into existence or anything, but later on you invited me onto this and now I get to do this.
Yeah.
You know, that was crazy to me because like before that I wasn't even really thinking about that being a big deal.
You're
But
on the
when
chopping block, by the way.
I know that's why I really gotta perform. But like, nah, seriously, when I came to that conclusion on that because it helped me dwindle down a lot of the things I wanted to focus on. And that ended up being one of those things. But before this, I never really thought about that being viable until it brought me to that conclusion. And then another thing it did, it helped it. There was a part of it that made you try to realize, what do you want your life not to look like? And it asked a lot of questions. That shit made me cry. Like it made you really think of like, if everything goes wrong or if you're living a life that you don't want to live, right? If you didn't achieve the things you want to achieve, what does your life look like? And when you really think that deeply about that dude, I literally, that made me emotional. I got sad.
Yeah.
Because it makes you go deep on both sides of things. So like really, if you don't know what you want to do or you're trying to figure out, you're trying to narrow it down, it takes hours. It takes a while to finish it and it is work. But by the end of that, you will have narrowed things down and have an idea of what you actually want to focus on. It's crazy. It's like going to a therapist, like you said.
Yeah. I get in a lot of good conversation. I feel like blessed that I have some people that will like open up to me and communicate with me because it gives me a lot of life experiences. And, you know, someone the other day, they were just telling me like, you know, like I'm X amount of years old and like, what story am I writing? You know, and they're bummed about it because they're like, you know, I don't know if I even wrote one page, you know, and it's obviously they're not talking about actually writing a book, but they're just saying like, maybe they've been writing somebody else's book, you know, and it's all stuff to think about. It's a healthy practice to kind of examine, like, are you doing the things that you want to do? And if you're not doing some of the things that you want to do, you don't need to beat yourself up over it, but you need to figure out, how can I do more of the things that I like? And I'm not just talking about things that make you happy, because, you know, if you just did shit that made you happy, maybe that would be a slippery slope. Like if you just ate ice cream all the time because you dig ice cream, like doesn't sound like a healthy option, you know? And you can get carried away with a lot of the things that you enjoy. Like you can over exercise, right? There's a lot of things you can kind of overdo that you like, even like alcohol or something like that is a good example, right? And so I think you need to try to figure out, what are some things that really fulfill me? What are things that make me really feel good? And then you start to think about, how can I do that a little bit more? I think about that every day. I think about it every single day. I scan over like, I didn't really like that much, or I did dig that. I know for me right now, I love focusing on other people, or at least trying to. And then sometimes I might get a little irritated by it because I'm like, I don't have any fucking time for myself. As I do kind of stretch myself kind of thin, but then I need to just think and say, you know what? No, you're following a lot of the stuff that you want to do. You are helping people. You are communicating with, and so it's not an easy thing to balance.
Yeah. How safe do you think it is to be a little unrealistic with, you know, some of the things you're into? We just said like it's important to be realistic, but like you brought up, you know, I want to eat ice cream every day, like, but like, what if I turn that into a YouTube channel? And you know, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe this will lead to like getting a sponsorship from an ice cream company or
John
something.
Berardi eats ice cream every day. You know, you can
And
figure
he's
out.
jacked.
Yeah, you can figure things out, and you can make sense of stuff. Like, you know, I did the, you know, the month off of coffee or whatever, and I was like, you know, I just enjoy coffee. And so now, when I looked back at it and I got a different perspective, I was like, you know what I'm not going to do? I'm going to really work on avoiding drinking coffee because I'm tired. So now that's like something that I've been working on. I'll even, on days where I'm more sleepy, you would think I would try to drink more coffee. I like just the act of drinking coffee, so I'll actually get decaf. And then I'm like, you got to correct this shit on your own. You need to overcome this stuff on your own. You need to, what do you need to do? You need to get to sleep on time, and need to, like, sleep is, we talk about it endlessly on this podcast, but it's a really crucial thing. And a lot of people just aren't very good at it, and something you need to work at, just like anything else. But having like goals that are completely irrational can kill you. I mean, that's how fucking powerful it can. I've seen it kill friends before. Friends have got addicted to drugs and painkillers and stuff because they wanted to be like a rock star. They wanted to be a professional wrestler. They wanted to be. It was like they were trying to be great.
Yeah.
And because of that, they forgot all the steps in the middle. They forgot all the steps to start out. It's like, man, if you're trying to be great, then you need to be like average and ordinary first. And then show me that you can be average and ordinary for a long period of time. And you know what that ends up being? It ends up being great. Because if you're like, maybe someone might think of Andrew. Andrew's not, 275 pounds all muscle. So it's not like overwhelming when you see him, right? But somebody might think, he's not a multimillionaire. He's not, driving up in a Bentley, right?
Mm-hmm.
So someone might think like, oh, it's just like whatever. And it's like, no. This is a guy that cares about all the people around him. This is a guy who's fucking consistent as hell. This is a guy who works really hard. This is a guy who's going to stay late, show up early, like do all the shit that's necessary just to be good every single day. And then if you're good every single day, and beyond being good, he goes above and beyond his job.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to continue to learn, wants to continue to get better. And so when you start to see that, you're like, he's fucking great. He's great at what he does. And is there room to get better? It's not like you can be like, hey, peace out, I'm great. But that's greatness. And I think that people are missing out on that because you see, maybe so many other things going on that you're kind of viewing as, oh, that person got 1 million likes on their thing or what. And you're viewing all that as being great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just being consistent. Like people like Ed Cohn and Jay Cutler and these people that we all admire. If you really think about what do they have in common, it's that real chunk of being good and being consistent for a really long time.
It's also a big deal, though, like as you're being consistent at something, naturally, when you continue to move forward with it, you will make shifts when you find out things aren't working right. It doesn't mean that your whole goal changed, but like when you were developing the slingshot or you were trying to come up with that idea, like you probably had to make so many shifts because just certain things weren't working the right way, right? Like you just made changes. A buddy of mine, Eric Kenry, do you know who he is?
I don't know.
Okay, so Eric Kenry, his serial Instagram is Family Food Dude, and what he does is he likes sweets and cereals and these just weird snacks like odd flavored Pop-Tarts or whatever. He's a healthy dude too, and I think he's gotten back into wrestling too. Like he does some amateur wrestling because he used to do that back in the day. But for the longest time, like back on Instagram back in like 2013 through 2012, right? Eric has been doing like this like cereal and like sweets thing for a long time because he just likes, him and his wife, they're the type of people to buy a box of donuts and take a bite of each and throw away the donuts because they like just to try and see how things taste. So they just love that, right? So what he's been doing for the longest time before it took off was just like posting videos and posting his reviews of like what he thinks about different types of like really sweet things, like that Trader Joe's cinnamon bun spread, right? He'll give it a rating. And it wasn't getting a lot of traction, but then like after I think 4 or 5 years of this stuff, right? He got picked up by like, I don't know, just something happened where he got picked up by some company or whatever, and it just blew up. And this thing just like now he does it with his son. He has videos where him and his son try stuff. And it's just like that's the thing he wanted to do. And he was still working with people as a strength coach. And so does his wife. But he continued to hammer away at that. And that is like super unrealistic. Like thinking that, you're just some dude in Florida and you like tasting shit and people really end up liking it. To think that and just to keep hammering away at that, that's just how this type of thing can happen. But he probably had to make so many shifts to make that work for him now,
Right.
And it's awesome seeing how it worked out for him, but also it was cool to see how for years not that many people were paying that much attention, and then just consistently it took off.
It takes a long time to get like recognition and to have people like paying attention to it. And so when it comes to like a social media platform, maybe people were following him. He's into working out and stuff. That's right.
Yeah.
So maybe people were following him because he's into like working out. He's into fitness, family guy, and so people were following him for that. He probably just has family following him just like everybody else does. And then when he started making those posts, there's probably a lot of people who are like, I don't dig this. Like, why is he showing me unhealthy food all the time? I thought he's a fitness guy, and they go away. But that's actually really good because the new people that are coming through the door, they found you specifically for like what you're showing and what you're viewing, and now you can quote unquote sell them on this idea. You're not really trying to make them purchase anything necessarily, but then those people are going to be so excited they're going to share that information with other people. I'm like, I got to tag my boy Nsima. He loves all this crap too, and that's what happens. Like, look how fun this is. This guy's eating all this different stuff. Check out his kid, man. He's got chocolate over his face, right? And people share it, and it starts to grow and grow and grow. And that's like, that is a great thing. It just takes, it's going to take time, right? Where I think people can, maybe save themselves some time is just unrealistic goals in terms of like, maybe it's just not like maybe it just doesn't make any sense. Like if I wanted to be in the WNBA, right? Like it's like there's certain character. I guess like now, I guess now, I guess now maybe you could, but you kind of like see my point. Like even just saying like me in the NBA, it's like I do love basketball, but like that's not enough to get me there. And for me to try to shift gears. Even if I was a pretty good basketball player right now, it's like, what would I have to do to be able to do that? Now, there are things that are wild that are probably out of reach for you now that you could convert yourself over into doing, but it would take so many steps. Let's take like something like a backflip, right? Like I only started jumping about 3 months ago, just in training, jumping on boxes and stuff. What if I committed to a backflip? Now, like, first thing that comes to my mind for a backflip is I probably would need to be more mobile, right? So that would take some time. But can I do a backflip? Fuck yeah, I can do a backflip, but it would probably honestly take me about 2 years of me really, it'd probably take Nsima like a month, but it'd probably take me like 2 years of really trying to work on it. Maybe for me, I'd have to lose like 40 pounds. It's like, could I lose 40 pounds? Like that would suck, but I can take the steps. So like, that's some of the stuff you got to ask yourself, like the goal that you have. Go back to John Berardi's podcast. Everyone should be listening to that podcast. Check it out. And everyone should, look into some of the books and stuff that he has to offer, because he talked about how he sets those goals up. And it's like, what are the steps to get there? The steps for me to go from who I am right now to get into the NBA, I could start to write it out. Like, fuck, man, I need to be a lot faster. I need more agility. Like I can barely dribble. Like I dribble off my foot all the time. That's not very productive for being in the NBA, So you could write out all these things, and I'd be like, wow, that's going to take me about 8 years to be like proficient at that stuff. And I'm going to be 50. Is there anybody in the NBA that's 50? No. Right? So it's like you can start to kind of rule certain things out, and maybe it's too much of a stretch. Maybe it's too unhealthy. For me to get back into powerlifting, for me to get, back in a squat suit, and for me to pursue an 800 or 900 pound squat, I could do all those things, but man, would I be fucked. And would it'd be too much of a compromise. So I ain't going to go for it.
When you just mentioned like, what's it going to take for me to get into the NBA? Kids always talk about like, oh, I'm going to be a professional basketball player someday. And a lot of this has to do this thought that I have has a lot to do with the most recent episode with Charlie Rocket, which I'm going to go on record and say it's the most underrated podcast episode across any platform ever. You guys need to listen to that. But yeah, let's say you want to go to the NBA. Okay, you're 5'6", you dribble off your feet, whatever. Like it's probably not going to happen. But what if you studied basketball so damn much that you know defense better than anybody, that's ever even touched a clipboard. And let's say, okay, you're not going to be the starting, point guard for the Kings, but what if you're the head defensive coach, or, you're on the sidelines? Okay, you didn't make it onto the team, but you still are in the NBA, and it's all because you had a certain passion and you never gave up. So I think that's like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to, like, an unrealistic goal is to be, like, on an all-star team.
That's our buddy Carlos, who's been filming for us more recently.
Right.
He loves basketball. He's like, I probably wasn't going to, be able to figure out, how to play in the NBA. He's like, so there I am filming games for them.
But
sick.
Yeah, exactly. Your example brings up an example of somebody who did something super similar. His name, I forgot. I don't know his name, but his YouTube name is The Professor. You know who I'm talking about?
The N1 mixtape guy?
Yeah.
Oh, the professor.
The Professor.
The professor.
Because I've
seen that guy before.
Exactly. Since a kid, he's wanted to be in the NBA, right? But he's like a 5'7", 5'6" white dude, right? So he built his handles. He ended up going into N1 mixtape and all that type of stuff.
Cool.
Nowadays, he's one of the biggest basketball influencers out there, right? He does videos with like NBA players, and he just he does videos analyzing NBA players and other stuff, and it's just like, it's crazy because he doesn't have the build of some top basketball player, right? But he just loved it so much that he figured out a way. He shifted his goals and he figured out a way to do something with his love of basketball, contrary to what everybody else thought. Like he was
so exciting to watch.
Exactly, right? And I think he was a teenager at that point too, bro. Like, he was a teenager. But that's the thing. Like, that is something super unrealistic, but something can be figured out, Yeah, it's tough because sometimes you don't know when you should stop or if you should continue. But if you just keep going, you'll figure out a way to make things fit you.
And maybe you can figure out like what it is that you're looking for. Like this kid probably loves basketball so much. One of his main goals was probably just to like wow people with the ball, and he's certainly accomplishing all that. There's maybe all you can do is shoot, but you go around and just shoot the lights out wherever you go, and people are digging on that. It could be. There's a lot of different ways to still get the attention. I think that it's important though to have these like strong, powerful dreams as a kid. You grow up and you play soccer, and you're like, man, I'm going to be on the Olympic team one day. I think that's great. Like, I think that's a healthy thing. And like the world is full of plenty of negativity, and we can get down to reality at some other point.
Yeah.
I heard a really cool analogy the other day where this guy was talking about a garden and how he helped his grandma with his garden all the time. And she was teaching him like how these things grow. Like, got to water it. We got to make sure it's in position to get like sun, and we got to groom it and this and that. And he came back like 2 weeks later, and there was a lot of weeds. He's like, Grandma, I think you said, we got to water like the area in order for things to grow. She's like, oh, those are weeds. They don't need any water or sunlight. They're going to grow anyway. Like, obviously they need something. But the point is, like, there's going to be plenty of negative shit around, and there'll be plenty of reality checks as you go through life. And I think it's actually a great thing when you're young to think that you're going to be like in the NFL. And at some point, again, you'll have to. Reality is going to kick in at some point, and things will start to make more sense. Your goals will start to shift, and it's not you just being compromising and necessarily giving up, but you're like, what makes more sense for me? And that could even be, meeting a significant other or something. Maybe you have this, maybe you're really driven. And you're like, I want to, go around the country, and I want to, do all this different stuff. And then you meet somebody and you're like, I'm chilling right here. Like, I don't really want to move around that much because I enjoy being with this person. And so then your goals change. And then you're like, well, maybe, rather than, traveling as much as I thought, maybe I'll travel with this person, twice a year or something, and you start to come up with some compromise, and you start to come up with things that make more sense for your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying,
I mean, yeah. So then what's, I guess just the changing of goals, is that like what you use now for motivation, Mark? Because there's a lot of people that are like, maybe they got the job that they wanted, maybe it stalled out a little bit, but now it's like, man, okay, now how do I kick it into another gear to obtain another goal of mine?
I think the main thing for me right now is trying to like make things more optimal. You know, how do you like optimize stuff? How do you like? I think there's a lot of things I can tweak, and there's a lot of things I can make better. So why not? You know, why not stack it up and go kind of vertical with those things rather than like trying to continue to like expand outward. You know, I've done that before, and it's like that doesn't make me feel very good, and it kind of like puts a lot on you. But if I kind of stack it up vertically, if I'm like, you know, hey, like some of this digital marketing is good. Like let's, you know, in football, you would just say, let's run the same play. You know, let's run that goddamn play again. You know, it got us 5 yards, and if we get another 5 yards, we get another first down. So those are the kind of things I think about now. How do I take things and make them more optimal? And I am motivated by that. That does get me. You know, it's not as exciting as like trying something totally new, but I'm not going to like try, you know, something new, you know, every other week. There's always business is really weird because everything is always just like kind of different anyway. Every situation is different, and all the different things that you try, they end up they just end up being different. Every commercial that we shoot is different. Every photo shoot that we do is different. They all have their challenges. They all have their kind of advantages and disadvantages, but really just trying to like optimize stuff. I mean, this sheet is a good example that we got from Jessica today about we have Jay Nara coming up or tomorrow or Wednesday. Today's Monday. And then it's just a chart. It's got the information on like when he's coming in, what we're doing. I mean, even our lunch is on there, you know. When I went and saw Gary V, he showed me his like calendar. His shower is on there. He has his shower is on his schedule. It's like, why is your shower there? He's like, I like to take a shower at that time. So, you know, boom, 10 minutes. And he does like a 10-minute shower. Like he like times it. Wow. Like he's a nut, but it's something that works for him. He's able to kind of schedule these things. And then back to some of what we were talking about with Jason Khalipa, this can be really motivating too, is to have this as many reps as possible mindset. We don't want to be like, you know, we don't want to like wear ourselves out, you know, but you know, Jason's mindset grew over a long period of time. That's also important to know. So if you're like, man, I don't have energy for that, that's okay. None of us do. None of us did. You'll gain more energy as you go along. And the more that you do, the more that you can do, the more that you'll be able to handle. You look at someone like The Rock. You know, years ago, The Rock went to college and he played football. And like, what else did he do? Probably like partied a little bit and went to class, like normal shit, right? And then what did he evolve into? Then for a while he was doing, you know, he was in a WWE and he was doing, you know, Raw and SmackDown tapings all over the country, traveling the world. Like that's a lot on your plate. But mainly he was like kind of one thing. He was a wrestler. And then as he progressed, he started doing wrestling and movies at the same time. And then he kind of he dumped the wrestling, and now he's in movies and TV. He's got Ballers. I mean, for a little while there, I think he had about 2 or 3 movies kind of coming in and out of the movie theater, like in the same time span. And he's like on the cover of like GQ, Muscle and Fitness, and it's like I don't get it, man. Like for some people that can make them feel like kind of down because they're like, I can't even like just go to class in one given day. Yeah. But you know, you just keep working and you'll build up your capacity. You'll be able to handle more work. It's the same as training. Maybe the first time, like I've been given Charlie Rocket these really easy workouts. I'm like, do 3 sets of 10 of curls and 3 sets of 10 of overhead presses with dumbbells. Go back and forth on that. And he's like, what else? I'm like, that's it. Fucking peace out. Get out of the gym, you know? Just giving him like, you know, really, really easy, real mild stuff. Because in the beginning, I don't want him to go in there and get all sore, right? I don't want him to go in there and be like, oh my God, I can't walk or I can't move. So really, really, you start really simple and you build up on top of that.
Man, my mind. Like, as you're mentioning The Rock, for all my nerds out there, millennials, you remind me of like a Pokemon. Dwayne Johnson evolves into Dwayne Johnson, the movie star. Evolves into Dwayne Johnson, the whatever. You just went from wrestler to wrestling to movies to this. You know what I mean?
Did you guys watch Hobbs and Shaw, by the way?
He needs a Pokemon playing card, The Rock?
Huh? He needs a
Poke-
Pokemon playing card. He needs like a wrestling. Yeah, just
he'd
like
be
an
overpowered,
evolution one. OP. Oh man.
Dude, I watched Hobbs and Shaw last night. That movie's insane.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
He's
yet.
pretty strong, man. He like held the helicopter with one arm.
Yeah. Well, no, and then there's one scene where he sticks his arm out of a I forgot the car, but they're driving really, really fast, and there's a motorcycle driving really, really fast at them, and he sticks his arm out.
Clothesline.
He literally grabs him and he holds him and then smashes him into the wall as they're still driving.
Yeah.
Like, dude, how strong is he?
And Dwayne we
most
trust.
Yeah, well, most of the shots in the movie are just to try to get those biceps and triceps on screen. It's all tan, it's all oiled up.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know
He's
what?
jacked.
So
like-
jacked.
On that AMRAP mentality, you know how we were talking about that John Danaher guy yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, so for everyone,
Coach.
the coach, for everyone who doesn't know who John Danaher is, just picture a really, well, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but he's a kind of almost frail looking, professorish looking guy. He just like he if you're watching the video, you'll see who I'm talking about. But John Danaher, he was a guy who was a professor, you know, before he got into jiu-jitsu. I think when he was a bouncer, he saw like his bouncing guys like deal with other people, or, you know, like, oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
He saw his like other bouncer friends dealing with alcohol or people that were drunk with grappling. So he got into grappling later in life. Now, as he learned about it, Renzo Gracie said that John would spend 12 to 14 hours in the school every day. Literally every day, because he became obsessed with jiu-jitsu. And what does he turn into? He doesn't turn into a premier jiu-jitsu competitor, but what he does turn into is one of the best jiu-jitsu coaches in the world, even though he's not someone who's done grappling from like 6 or 7 years old. But he's literally one of the best no-gi and gi coaches in the world. And like recently at the ADCC, which is like the no-gi championships, his team, the Danaher Death Squad, brought home apparently the most medals in ADCC history from a single team. That's insane. And that's from somebody who just had a passion for something. He had a background in teaching. He was a professor. He had a background in teaching and uses that way of learning to learn jiu-jitsu and learn how to teach jiu-jitsu in a more optimal way. So he didn't turn into some crazy competitor, but he turned into a crazy coach because he had some talents that were developed in another way, but he did go all in. You know, he went all in there. So that's just how things work sometimes.
I know for you, like, you know, being excited about fitness, when you're doing programming for people and somebody's like, you know, sometimes you spit out information and it's like not working on a person for a particular reason, right? They communicate with you, and now it's like, let's say Sunday, and you have to do programming for that person. You're not like, oh man, like I do programming for this guy, his squat's stuck, and you know, you're like, this is really cool. I need to try to figure this out. I wonder if this, you know, I tried this a while back. That worked really great, or this worked really great on another client. I'm gonna, you know, and you start writing, and it's if you have no control over like your hand or if you're typing it out or whatever. And you're fired up and excited about it. It's so important that people find stuff that they really enjoy, you know, and you hear that kind of all the time. You hear people say it all the time, that it won't ever feel like work and stuff like that. But it's not so much that it won't ever feel like work. It's just that you'll be able to have a lot of consistency with it, and you'll be able to spend a lot of time doing it because you actually enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you'll have the sense of fulfillment. Like when I worked at my previous job, I had none of that, and I hated it. And then now I come here, and I, you know, take even as silly as like I remember it was before even Trump was the president, but I took a picture of Mark and I photoshopped Donald Trump's head on it. And I just remember Mark being like, "Oh, we broke the internet. This got like more likes than any picture I've ever, you know, posted." And I just remember being like, "Whoa, like that's weird. Like I made an impact, even if it triggered and upset people or whatever."
Yeah.
But like I just remember like that would have never happened at my previous job. Like everything goes unnoticed. And then here it's like, oh wow, I'm actually kind of leaving a little footprint on this planet.
Bro, look at Sarmageddon. Look at the footprint that you left
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
People are coming to that for their resource on what to do, or like, you know, just like how to think about that type of stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah. Trust me, yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
I never expected that to happen. And I think that's kind of like what drives me now is like, you know, I have some certain goals, and then the goals changed, and then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, now that's my goal. You know, so it's kind of like like sort of like replenishes the motivational tank, you know.
Yeah.
It's super motivating to do stuff better. You know,
Yeah.
like when we had Brian Aldrew in, and he was showing us some of the overhead presses. I think the next day I was in there and I was working on it again, and he showed me something that he didn't really show us in like his demonstration, and it wasn't. The reason he didn't show it is because it wasn't anything technical. It was just like a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, dude, you gotta go. Sorry, it'll explode the whole desk. He's like, I broke my pen.
You broke
Oh.
your pen.
He's like, dude, you gotta like, you know, when it's time to go, he's like, you gotta go.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm being a pussy. You know what I mean? And so he just meant like you only have so much time because you're trying to hold your air, and it's hard to press the weight up overhead
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have your air, and if you lose your air during the set, then it's kind of hard to regain it. And you're only going to be able to regain it with your arms kind of up over your head. It's easier to breathe in that position, and you start to deflate and you start to kind of lose your core. But the whole point is that when you take on a mindset of trying to go in deep on something and trying to like just be better at something than you were yesterday, it's actually really exciting and it's actually really fun. I mean, you can be as crazy as you want to be with this stuff, and you can apply it to all kinds of stuff. I remember one time I hung out with Dave Tate, the owner of EliteFTS.com, and he like every time we went somewhere, he like flew out of the car. And this is a guy who's like he's been powerlifting for years, like he's kind of in a bunch of pain, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why do you like? I mean, you're like I was getting out of the car, and he's like around the block, you know what I mean? And I asked him, I was like, why do you do that? He's like, because I don't want to waste any time doing stuff. And he's like, so I built up this mindset, like when I get somewhere, I want to get there, and then I want to, you know, get back to whatever it is I was doing. But the point is, you can take that mindset and apply that to just about anything. You could figure out like, where am I fucking around? Where am I losing time? Where, you know, how can I be more optimal? How can I push a little bit harder? And with the AMRAP mentality, it's as many reps as possible. And if you look at some CrossFit workouts, these people are, I mean, it's really rare to see it in bodybuilding and in powerlifting, although I've seen it before, for people to hit the ground. I mean, CrossFit, that's an average day in CrossFit. You're on the ground, your arms are up over your head, and you're just like dying. You know, you're making like the sweat angel that they always talk about. And that's some of the stuff that you're trying to do in your day to day. Like you don't maybe have to go quite that hard, but just imagine, you know, you're at 90, 95 most of the time, because it might be hard if you're going 100 on everything all the time. You're going to be wiped out, you know. Yeah. But what if you just cranked everything up just 3% or 5% more than you're doing now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hate getting to that point where you're just dying. We kind of went there yesterday to that point where I'm not recovering anymore. I'm still dying. I'm still not recovering. But yeah, implement that in your everyday business life, and you will be able to push a little bit further.
I fucked up this pen.
Got
Guys,
that passion, man.
Don't let me Hulk smash the table anymore.
That was my last pin I had as loners too.
Oh man,
it's like all jacked up, like the top came off, and a spring.
The spring's out. You're
you're
done.
A spring shot out of it.
You're totally done.
And I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah. But if if you're listening and you honestly, let's just say that right now, you're like, I don't have anything I have that passion for, then yeah, go out, like self-authoring, find things, figure it out. Because when you do find something that you really do like, then even if you don't know much about it right now, the learning experience is going to be enjoyable. Like it'll take a while because you have to get good and you have to learn something. Like sometimes you can't just go out and do something because you don't know much about it. But once you figure out what that thing is, you will put in the time to work and learn at it. And it won't be as hard as it is, sitting in school trying to read about algebra. It won't feel like that because now you have a vigor towards it. So just remember, like, it's not always going to be there initially. You'll have to learn at it. You'll have to get good. But a lot of that process isn't going to feel like, it's not going to feel like school for some of us.
And you might hate school, but you're going to have to be educated. You know, like there's just not, I apologize in advance. There's not a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be educated on something, whether it's that, I mean, that could just be that you're, really, really awesome at basketball. Like that could be your education. That's fine. but you better be really, really skilled at whatever it is you're doing, and you better learn a ton about it, regardless of how much you like. I didn't really like school, but I spent from pretty much the last about 15 years or so, really diving in deep and really trying to learn, maybe even a little bit longer, probably almost like 20 years, really diving in deep and learning like all kinds of stuff. Some of it started out with training stuff, and then it kind of evolved into, over the last about 5 years, shifted over into more like personal development stuff, because I found that for me, the more general it was, the more the easier it was for me to transition it into my like day to day. Like I don't really need specifics. I just need like some general shit, and then I can kind of get moving on it. That's all the time we got, peeps. Appreciate you guys following along. If you want to get some of that mind bullet extract, go over to mindbullet.com and check it out. We got capsules as well. Also, thanks to our sponsors at Perfect Keto and at Piedmontese. Andrew, you want to give them the code?
Yeah, sure. So for Perfect Keto, if you guys want to get on that nootropic that we're always talking about, just head over to perfectketo.com/powerproject, enter promo code powerproject at checkout, and you'll get 15% off everything in your cart. And then for Piedmontese, head over to Piedmontese.com, Piedmontese.com, enter promo code PowerProject, and that'll get you an entire 25% off your entire order. I know. So that's, by my calculations, that's, I think, a quarter off of the price.
It's a quarter.
Yeah, and then if you spend $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what's our code for Perfect Keto? People get that Perfect Keto.
Yeah, it's just code PowerProject.
And there you go. And then Andrew, do you have an Instagram?
I think I do.
We don't plug our Instagrams.
Yeah, we should. Mine is at I am Andrew Z, and today I actually just posted a Sarmageddon Q&A.
Oh.
Yeah. Towards the end of Sarmageddon,
I'm gonna ask a question.
Towards the end of Sarmageddon, I reached out and asked everybody, like, hey, what's something you want me to address in the final episode? And I only got to a little bit of it. I ended up interviewing Mark, and it went way better than I could have ever done anything myself. And so I answered a handful of questions, but I got so much feedback from that I'm gonna have to make multiple videos just by answering questions. And one of the questions was like, what do you regret? And my regret was I didn't lean on people that follow me on Instagram. I ended up making YouTube videos for the masses of people, which was like tons of haters and stuff. And I wish I didn't go that route. I wish I just like focused on the people that actually cared. And so that's what I'm going to be doing with my IGTV now is like, answering and like hanging out with like the people that actually care. So that's at I am Andrew Z, and yeah, reach out and hit me up with some more questions.
What's your Instagram, sir?
Nsima Inyang, Nsima Inyang.
I was hoping you'd spell it for everybody. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.